Hello, I'm Chelsea Newman. I am an intuitive educator, and I'm glad you're here with me today. If you like what I'm sharing in these videos, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers. But I have a story that I feel needs to be told because it has not only changed my life, but I'm getting feedback that the people who have done what I'm about to share have seen amazing results in their own life. And so I'm just going to share this story with you. So the idea is that you need to get better at asking better questions in your life. And I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about and why that is and why it made a difference in my life. So in 2018, I had just had my second baby and I was struggling with really bad. I had anxiety and depression before I had her, but when she came along, it morphed into postpartum psychosis. And it got really, really scary for quite a few months. And my husband and I, he was struggling with things at his job that he had at the time, and we just felt like we were living in this hole that we could not dig ourselves out of. It was really, really hard and really scary. And it was bad enough to the point where he would have to come home from work sometimes. And my mom even took time off of work at times so that he wouldn't lose his job and so that our kids would be safe. So it was just a hard time of life, right? And I say it with a smile now because of where I have been and I'm on the other side of it. And so I can talk about it. It's a memory, but it doesn't feel, I've worked through it and I don't feel the emotion of it as much anymore, right? So what I discovered was at that time, I was not aware of it, but I would wake up in the mornings and I felt like I was living this idea of Groundhog Day, where if you've seen the Bill Murray movie Groundhog Day, he wakes up and relives the same day over and over again, except for a few things change here and there. But he just gets caught in this cycle of reliving the same day over and over again, right? And that is how I felt. I would wake up in the morning and I would just have this sense of dread, and I was having a really hard time going to sleep at night because I would have anxiety, and in the morning I was having a really hard time getting out of bed because I had depression, and I didn't realize it as I was doing it, but in hindsight I know that these were the questions that I was asking. I would ask myself, why do I feel like this over and over again throughout the day? Like, just even subconsciously, that was just the driving factor of my day. And then I would ask myself, why can't I get better? And those thoughts would just cycle in my mind all day long. Why do I feel like this? Why can't I get better? And what I have since discovered is your brain is like a search engine. So if you think of Google, you hop onto Google and you type in your question and it brings up all of these results, right? Well, that's how your brain works. Your brain's primary function is your survival. And so the questions that you're asking it, it is searching for the answers because it thinks that if you know the answer to the question that you're asking, it will boost your chance of survival. So when you're constantly asking yourself something like, why do I feel like this? Or why can't I get better? Then those are the answers that your brain is seeking, right? So my brain was showing me, it was drawing my attention to the reasons why I felt like that and why I wasn't getting any better. But it wasn't giving me a solution because I wasn't asking the right question, right? So how I would change those questions now, looking back with my hindsight that I have, instead of asking, why do I feel like this? I would ask myself, maybe identify the way that I actually want to feel. And that's actually what I ended up doing. So I chose 3 states of being that I wanted to experience in 2018. And they were, I wanted to feel joy because I was not experiencing joy at that time in my life. And I wanted to feel purpose. So when I wake up in the morning, I feel like there is a purpose to my day. And when I lay down at night, I felt like I lived on purpose during the day. And the third thing was I wanted to be present. I was finding myself trying to escape the life that I was living. And a lot of us deal with that, right? We eat our emotions, or we incessantly scroll on our phones. And it's that idea of trying to escape the pain that we are feeling right now, right? But those things don't actually make us feel better. And I wanted to not try to escape the present moment by doing those things, eating my emotions or scrolling on my phone. Doom scrolling is what we call it nowadays. I wanted to just be in the present moment. And so I started, this is my tip for you. I set an alarm in my phone and I asked myself 4 things. So the first was, what's the best thing that could happen today? I set that alarm in the morning. And then in the evenings, I had one that goes off that says, what is the best thing that happened today? So my brain was primed from the minute that I woke up to be searching for the good things that were taking place in my life, where before I was searching for everything that was going wrong, right? And then I asked, how can I experience joy? And then the evenings, how did I experience joy? How can I be present? How was I present? And where can I find purpose? Where did I experience or find purpose was what I asked myself in the evenings. And I did this for a number of months, and it did not change very quickly. But over time, I started seeing things change on the outside as I was asking a different question on the inside. So that brings us to today. Over the last year, my husband and I have taken our kids across the country in an RV, and it was a really fun experience and an awesome adventure. But we knew that one day we were going to come back home and meld ourselves back into this normal society, right? So he is kind of like going through a little bit of somewhat of a career change, and we're trying to figure out life in a normal American society again. So we're moving ourselves back into the real world, if you will. And we're kind of in this transition phase where we're still currently living in the camper, but we're looking for a house and trying to decide like what city we want to live in and what he wants to do for his career. And all of these things are changing. And I am someone who has really worked over the years on self-awareness. And I felt kind of like I was spiraling back into that 2018 mindset again, where it just felt like, what are we doing? Like, why? It felt like nothing was going wrong, right? I felt like we were taking action, and it was just door after door slamming in our face, and just trying to get into a house. That's what we're experiencing. And so I've been praying and asking the question, what's next? What do we do now? And I haven't been getting any answers, and I've been so frustrated about that. And this whole process has been coming into my mind again about what questions I am asking. And I was reminded of when I was going through that stuff with my daughter. Not that she was doing anything, it was me. It was my experience, right? I kept praying at that time when I was asking those questions of why do I feel like this and why can't I get better? Those were the questions that I was asking when I would pray as well. And I kept getting this answer of just make the best of everything you have. And I was like, how do I do that? And so that is actually where this started changing. Because remember my question earlier, what's the best thing that could happen today? Or what is the best thing that happened today? That's where that started coming from. And I started asking myself that on the inside. And then because that's what the answer was to my prayers, was just make the best of everything you have. And I was like, what does that even mean? How do I do that? And then a video had come up on my stream one day that there was a man that was telling me this exact principle of setting an alarm in your phone that goes off multiple times a day that asks that question, what's the best thing that could happen today? And so I did it, and my brain started searching for that answer, and I started seeing it take place in my physical world. It wasn't just in my head anymore. So I took all of that and I lived my life over the next few years. So now here we are in 2023 and we're in this transition phase trying to figure out what's next. That's the question that we've been asking. What's next? What do we do now? And we weren't getting any answers. And so I've been praying like, Heavenly Father, I know that you speak to me, but I am feeling like you are not speaking to me right now for some reason. And I've been really struggling with that for a few weeks and just trying to figure out why it feels like he's so quiet in my life. And so I think it was yesterday. I will tell you, the way that God works in our lives multiple times, we have had an idea come and we work to try to make it happen. And it feels like we're just spinning our wheels and not getting anywhere. And we have to take a really big step to like show our faith, and suddenly miracles start appearing. So I'll give you one example of this. When we first started discussing this idea of moving our family into an RV, I talked to my husband about it. We talked about it for probably 4 months. The idea came to me in June or July, and I had talked to him, and then finally in October he was committed. So 4 months-ish had gone by. We were talking about it. We started putting our house up on the market and he was talking to his employer, so his employer knew that he was not going to be working after our house sold. And so everyone was preparing for it around us, but nothing was happening. Our house wasn't selling. And we were like, okay, we feel like this was an idea that God put into our hearts and minds, but now that we are trying to get traction, we're not going anywhere. We're just spinning our wheels. And my husband came home one day and he said, I feel like we need to commit to this and show God that we're serious about it. And we need to go get the camper that we're going to move into. And I was dying because at first I thought, oh, well, the only way we can do that right now, because we hadn't sold our house yet, was to finance it. And I laughed inside and thought we wouldn't even get financing. We wouldn't be approved. And he went the next day and he took care of business and we got approved, which was such a huge shock and surprise to me. And we went and picked up our RV, and within a week, our house was under contract, and people were warning us, well, just because it's under contract doesn't mean it's sold, but we knew that we could make the payments, and we were willing to wait for whatever needed to work out. And it ended up selling under contract. It went through. So we moved into this camper, and all of these miracles started happening in our lives. And I think we talk about how in the Bible, when the children of Israel are trying to get into the promised land, they have to step into the water of the River Jordan before it parts and they can walk across on dry ground, right? And that is just how God works in our lives. So all of that to say, now that we're transitioning out of the camper, I've been feeling like there's something that we need to do to show that kind of commitment again. And the thought had come to me to start taking all of the things in the camper that make it a home and not just a place that we're living. So like the pictures on our walls and all of the things that we use, but not on a day-to-day basis, that I needed to start getting those out of our camper and into storage. And I was fighting it because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to move twice. I just want to get a house and move our stuff out of our camper into our house. But it's almost like Heavenly Father's test to me is, are you faithful? And are you going to take action even though the way hasn't been made before you? Are you going to step into the river before I part the water? And so I've been like feeling like I need to take the stuff down off of the walls. And it's been about a week and a half that I've been feeling that. And I've been telling my husband every morning, I got to take the pictures off of the walls. I got to take the pictures off of the walls. And it wasn't happening because that's a hard thing to do, right? It's a bittersweet thing when you transition in your life to something else. And so I would like go to do it. And every time I went to do it, my heart was just kind of breaking a little bit to think about closing this chapter of our life. And so I wouldn't do it. And then yesterday happened and I've been praying and so frustrated that we're not getting an answer or any direction on where to take our lives. And so yesterday morning, I went for a walk and I was praying and I said, okay, I'm putting it all before you, God. I'm not going to say what I want to say to you, but I'm going to open myself up in this prayer and I'm just going to listen. And if you put your spirit upon me and allow the spirit to teach me, please help me to know what you would like me to ask for. And it came to my mind, change your questions. That's what the thought was that came to me when I said that. And I was like, okay, Heavenly Father, what would you have me ask for? And it was quiet and I didn't get any thoughts or answers. And so I said, okay, I'm going to start becoming aware of the questions that I am asking and wait for your answer. And so I came home from my walk and I was cooking my kids' lunch and getting everything ready for the day. And then I took a break that afternoon and I sat down and I opened up Facebook and one of my friends had posted this video. And it is a girl who is giving her commencement speech. I think she was probably the valedictorian for her college. And she says, we are asking the wrong question because now that they're in this transition phase of graduating out of college, the question they're asking themselves and the question that people are asking them is, what's next? Right? And she says, that's the wrong question to ask. And my alarm bells went off and I was like, I hear you, God. I am listening because this is exactly the question that I have been asking. And I believe that you will be faithful and tell me the question that I need to be asking now. And so she went on to say that the question that we need to ask instead of what's next is, who do I want to be? Who can I be? Who should I be? And think about, she says that she looks at people and she looks to their inner characteristics and she identifies them by their inner characteristics instead of what they do. So a lot of times when you meet someone new, they'll ask you, what do you do for a living, right? That's how we identify people. We identify them by what they wear, where they live, what their job is. And those external identificators can be taken away. They're not really who we are, right? The thing that drives us every day, who we think we are, how we identify ourselves, that's where our value comes from. And so it's asking ourselves, what characteristics do I want to have? What kind of person am I? Right? And so when I heard her say that, who can I be? Who am I to become? And I was like, whoa. It just felt like I had been so unsettled for days and like I needed to figure everything out right now and we need to know what house we're going into and time is running out. That's the way that it had felt for days. And in that moment where I changed the question from what's next to who can I become or who am I being, everything just settled around me. And I felt like I saw this vision of even if we don't get out of this camper in the next few weeks, as long as I am being who God wants me to be, I can be at peace. I don't have to worry about what other people are thinking of me. I don't have to worry about what I think of myself. I don't have to worry about the things that I need to do. I just am who I am because I'm focused on who I am rather than what I'm doing. And so now the question that I'm asking instead of what's next is, who do I want to be? And I'm filling it with these characteristics: a joyful person, a person who is concerned and worried about what the next step is not going to be experiencing joy, right? We're not going to be loving the process of what's between point A and point B. And these points are not very big. There's a huge space between point A and point B. If I'm focused on what's next, I am concerned with these really small bits of my life. And I'm totally disregarding everything in between, that gap. And the gap life. That is where our life happens. So we need to change the question from what's next to who am I? Who can I become? And think about the characteristics that are important to us. So, all of that to say that this has changed my life. And it's really helped me to not become overwhelmed with the exterior things that come with life that people really seek. I worked with a lot of like goal getter, hustle type people for a lot of years in my life, and I saw how they would reach their goals that they had been working towards for years, and they would get burnout and they wouldn't feel fulfilled, because when you get to the top of a mountain, you look around and you realize how many other mountains there are to be conquered, right? You can see all of these other peaks when you're standing at the top. But if you're focusing on that gap part, it doesn't matter what the points are, because your identity is where you're spending the majority of your time. And it's about the process. And so if you can find joy in the process because you're a joyful person, you won't have anxiety about getting from point A to point B. And you'll be present and you'll feel purpose in what you're doing. So, all of that to say that if you are someone who feels like you need to figure everything out right now, and you're getting frustrated and you're not getting the results in life that you would like to see yourself achieve, maybe it's time that you ask a different question. So, I hope that that adds some value to your life. Thank you for watching. I know that this has made a huge difference in the way that I experience life, and I have to be reminded of it on a regular basis to go back to asking myself a different question. But it really is a principle that can change the results that you're getting in life, and it will help you take the action that needs to be taken to get the thing that you want to get, because it's not about the end result, it's about the process, right? And asking the right questions will transform your thoughts about that process. So hope this has added value to your life. If you liked it, I would love if you would share it. I would love if you would subscribe. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers, but this is just a principle that has made a huge difference in my life, and it was a story that I felt like it needed to be told. So I just sat down to tell it, and thank you for being here. Have a great day.